everybody thinks it's important to become physically strong, right? Going to the gym or learning how to fight, for example. But I feel like not enough people talk about how to become mentally strong, right? And there are many different ways to get this. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't really think about it because, becoming physically strong is really simple, right? It's just two things, really: fighting and being strong, going to the gym, right? But being mentally strong is a lot harder and a lot more nebulous, right? Like it's more abstract. It's hard to pin down what exactly that means. But I found four ways to become mentally strong, or four things you should improve to become mentally strong enough to not be taken advantage of, right? Not be tricked, not have people deceive you and give you fake information because you don't know any better, right? Or to be able to not be manipulated, or if you need to manipulate other people and get them to do what you want. Obviously in an ethical way. We're not going to become demons here, but my point is being mentally strong is probably more important than being physically strong, especially now because one, not only are guns a thing, so if you don't need that stuff, you don't need that stuff to protect yourself, but two, it's not like you can use that whenever you want. Like it's not as useful as people think just because like there are laws and stuff. Even if you were able to defend yourself and it was your duty to do that, or you were the one in the right to defend yourself, they could still call the police and say you started it. And so physically doing stuff usually is really hard to do in a proper sense without getting punished for it. So I think it's not as important as mental stuff, right? So let's get started. All right. So number one is knowledge, right? Knowledge is the overarching thing that you need knowledge, right? When you have knowledge of the world, nobody can take advantage of you, right? For example, if you're in another country and people try to take advantage of you because you're not from there and they think they can get more money from you for a coffee, right? If you have knowledge of the fact that that even exists, you'll know to look at the price. Or if you just know the price of the coffee, you can't be taken advantage of. A perfect example that nobody really talks about or thinks about. But having knowledge about the world and stuff helps you to not be tricked by people who try to give you fake information and hope you don't know any better. Another example, when cops try to, I know you guys, especially in America, we have this where the cops will try to get you to like forfeit your rights by tricking you into doing stuff, like by asking you, do you know why I pulled you over today, sir? Like hoping that you'll incriminate yourself and give them information, right? But if you actually know what they're trying to do and what rights you have as a citizen of the country, you'll know what they can and can't do. So if they try to make you do something that's illegal, you can make them, you can push them back without having them doing anything. Physically, you can't do anything. If you touch them, you'll get thrown in jail or killed or something. But these are good examples of why having knowledge helps. I mean, even just in a general sense, if you have knowledge about the world and stuff, if people try to like bring up fake facts in any kind of argument, a political argument, a religious argument, a historical argument, you can say, actually, no, I know that, and that's not true because of blah, 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 blah. And they can, people can sound very convincing if you don't know what's going on. Like you're kind of in the darkness around you and you have no idea what's going on around you. People can tell you whatever they wanted. And I mean, I guess you could try to check, but usually most people don't do that. They just take them for their word and they believe stuff that isn't true. But if you actually know about this by doing proper research, reading, stuff like that, you'll know what's true and what's not true. And the thing is, getting knowledge is hard. There's a lot of ways to get knowledge, but that's mainly just having a lot of life experience and also like learning a lot, either by learning other skills or reading, or actually reading is probably the main one, but you can learn stuff from watching videos about history or whatever, or just watching things in general. And the more you pay attention, the more you remember, the more that you'll have. And the thing is about knowledge that it takes a while to get, right? You need a lot, and you have to put a lot of work in to get this. It's very abstract. But once you have it, it's invaluable. The number two is focus. And focus is more of a actually skill other than like an accumulation of knowledge gained. And focus is pretty easy to get, much like how to become physically strong, in the sense that it's pretty simple. You just have to do the right things, and that is to Number one, stop abusing any kind of dopamine activity, such as, video games. I mean, you can, but I guess I should say in moderation, right? But it's better to not use anything that gives dopamine. Like, and if you don't know, pretty much anything that can become an addiction gives you dopamine because that's why people get addicted to it. It gives them like an ungodly amount of dopamine, but that's stuff like social media is a new one that just completely fires your dopamine every time, and it gives you free dopamine for nothing, just scrolling. But video games do that, social media does that, drugs do that, smoking does that, alcohol does that, gambling does that. So you can see like the pattern here. When you do all of that, nothing in your life is fun, and you cannot focus because your brain is constantly trying to get dopamine, and you can't focus on anything. All your brain wants to do is find an easy way to get a hit of dopamine. So you got to stop as many of those as you can, at least start limiting it, and then your dopamine levels will start going back to normal, and it'll become easier to do other stuff. And the main thing to do to increase your focus is actually reading helps to that as like a small side note, but because you have to focus on one thing. But meditation, right? When you meditate, it helps your focus incredibly because that's what it's designed to do. Meditation will make you sit there, and when you breathe and focus only on your breath, you'll have a bunch of thoughts coming in your head. You'll get rid of them and go back to your breath, and that way it teaches your mind that when you're thinking about something to only focus, actually thinking or doing something, it teaches your mind to only focus on what you're doing or thinking about, and that any other thoughts that come in your head that interrupt you and make you lose your train of thought, your brain will be stronger at defending against those. And when you have focus, you can actually like put a lot of concentration into things and focus on the things that are really important. And when you're thinking about something, you can actually put a lot of time into that. Focus is like really, really important to thinking critically and thinking quickly and finding solutions to answers really fast. And that's obviously very useful. I mean, if you're able to focus, you can kind of nail down anything you want in life. People who aren't able to focus on one thing are always going back and forth, and they can't really settle in on one thing and get to the end of that. All right, so number 3 is perception. And I know that's kind of wonky too, but perception is like, I would define it as the ability to notice what's going on around you, right? Perception is kind of like what those people in the spy movies have when they are like able to remember how many cars were in the street or how many people were wearing yellow or something like that. Like when you're able to notice everything around you and what's going on, you can kind of see what's going to happen, and you're able to predict what's going to happen in the future because you're noticing everything around you, let alone the fact that you're actually learning from that stuff. If you can actually notice and see what's going on, what's happening here, you can learn from this kind of stuff, and you'll be able to actually pick up more information and more knowledge for that fact during the same thing. And the only way to really get better at this is to try it. When you're out on the street, start paying attention to what's going on around you. Think, why is this like this? Why are the streets built like this? Why are there so many cars here and not over here? Why does this country have so many parking lots and this one doesn't? Think about that kind of stuff, and you can start to understand why things are the way they are, right? Now, this leads us to the last one, which is just generally thinking, getting better at thinking. And how do we do that? Well, I like to think that a really good way to get better at thinking is to play chess, right? Playing chess, not only does it like really make you focus and concentrate on the game, because you need to think about everything in the game and what the opponent is doing, what you're doing, but chess helps you predict the future, right? It helps you predict what somebody's going to do, what you're going to do, and what's going to happen, and you need to think about all the possible things that could happen and what you will do in that situation, which is really, really valuable for real life. If anything is going to happen, if you need to, for whatever reason, like, make sure that somebody can't beat you in this mental game of, like, trying to make you do something, right? It can be literally anything. But you can think, okay, they're going to do this, so I'm going to say this. It even works in arguments. If you want to have an argument about something, you can say, all right, I know if I say this, then this person is going to say this. And I don't want them to say that, so I won't say this. Anyways, it helps you really get good at thinking and thinking quickly. Quick thinking, like, especially in stuff like the army or in school or in any companies, like, thinking on your feet and thinking quickly is a really, really useful skill in like anything. And that really helps you with that. But just outside of chess, thinking is pretty much just making sure your mind is always working and always thinking about stuff, right? Like reflecting on your actions, seeing how you can improve from your actions, thinking about what's going to happen in the future so that you can kind of make sure that you're prepared for that. Or maybe even thinking about stuff in the past so you can learn from what you've done or what other people have done. Thinking in general is kind of like the main thing that you should be doing, and it kind of overlaps with the other three things I've been talking about. But thinking is really important, and nobody actually does that. But if you do all four of these, like your mind will become, it's not even about intelligence, but your mind is like a muscle, and you're training it with all four of these. It's like going to the gym, but for your brain. And when your brain becomes more able to think critically, able to concentrate, able to focus, able to understand and know what's happening around them, your mind is going to be way more powerful than most people, and you will not be able to be tricked, manipulated, taken advantage of. People won't be able to, take advantage of you and get information or make you believe something wrong. You can actually defend yourself in a mental way other than just a physical way. And I think most people don't talk about that, but that's really important. So you should start trying to do that, right? See ya.